Hello and welcome to Millennium News Hour. I am Tanziba Nawreen. In today's bulletin, we will present top and trending news from across the nation and the world. Let's begin with the headlines of the day. Biden announces nuclear-powered submarine deal with Australia. Biden issues order to strengthen gun background checks. Biden administration lets Ukrainians who fled war stay in US. Biden says Jimmy Carter has asked him to deliver his eulogy. Woman stabbed on Chicago train platform named attacker before dying, police say. Northeast winter storm knocks out power, closes schools. Missing Texas girl found locked inside man's shed in North Carolina. McConnell released from hospital, headed to inpatient rehab. Former Representative Pat Schroeder, pioneer for women's rights, dies. Two dead, 9 injured after truck hits pedestrians in Quebec. US says Russian warplane hits American drone over Black Sea. Hundreds dead as Cyclone Freddy wrecks Malawi, Mozambique. Pakistan police ex-PM Khan supporters scuffle near his home. Nobel laureate Kenzaburo Oi, writer of poetic fiction, dies. China to reopen to tourists, resume all visas Wednesday. FIFA expands 2026 World Cup again to create 104 game program. And US to play Mexico in April 19 exhibition without top players. You were listening to headlines, now news in details. President Joe Biden and the leaders of Australia and the United Kingdom on Monday announced that Australia will purchase nuclear-powered attack submarines from the US to modernize its fleet amid growing concern about China's influence in the Indo-Pacific. Biden flew to San Diego to appear with Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese and British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak as they hailed an 18-month-old nuclear partnership given the acronym AUKUS for Australia, the United Kingdom and the United States. The partnership, announced in 2021, enables Australia to access nuclear-powered submarines, which are stealthier and more capable than conventionally powered vessels, as a counterweight to China's military buildup. Biden, appearing sensitive to tensions with China and its criticism of the deal, stressed that the submarines are nuclear-powered, not nuclear-armed. President Joe Biden signed an executive order on Tuesday aiming to increase the number of background checks to buy guns, promote more secure firearms storage, and ensure U.S. law enforcement agencies are getting the most out of a bipartisan gun control law enacted last summer. The Democratic president was set to address his latest efforts to curb gun violence in a speech from Monterey Park, California. In January, a gunman stormed a dance hall in the community near Los Angeles and shot 20 people, killing 11 following a Lunar New Year celebration. He is also scheduled to meet with families of the victims and first responders from that day. Biden's rhetoric has only grown stronger around guns. He routinely calls for banning so-called assault weapons in his speeches, and Democrats didn't push such a vocal gun control platform even during the Obama administration, when Biden was vice president. But Biden has been emboldened by the midterms after his regular talk of gun control didn't result in massive losses, and he is expected to continue to push for strong changes as he inches toward a 2024 run, his aides say. Biden invited Brandon Tissey, the 26-year-old who wrestled the semi-automatic pistol away from the gunman in Monterey Park, to his State of the Union address and praised the young man's heroism. The Biden administration is allowing thousands of Ukrainians who fled their homeland when Russia invaded a year ago to stay in the United States longer, the administration said Monday. The decision provides relief to Ukrainians whose one-year authorization to remain in the U.S. was set to expire soon. The Homeland Security Department said the extension is for certain Ukrainian nationals and their immediate family members who were led into the U.S. before the Uniting for Ukraine program started. Ukrainians who came in under the Uniting for Ukraine program generally got 2 years of humanitarian parole in the U.S., whereas those who arrived before them generally got permission to stay only for 1 year. Thousands of Ukrainians came to America last year fleeing the war. President Joe Biden says he plans to deliver the eulogy at the funeral of former President Jimmy Carter, who remains under hospice care at his home in South Georgia. Biden told donors at a California fundraiser Monday evening about his recent visit to see the 39th president, whom he has known since he was a young Delaware senator supporting Carter's 1976 presidential campaign. He asked me to do his eulogy, Biden said, before stopping himself from saying more. Excuse me, I shouldn't say that. Carter, who at 98 is the longest-lived U.S. president, announced February 18 that he would spend his remaining days at home receiving end-of-life care, foregoing further medical intervention after a series of short hospital stays. The Carter Center in Atlanta and the former president's family members have not disclosed details of his condition, though Biden alluded to Carter's 2015 cancer diagnosis and subsequent recovery. Biden and First Lady Jill Biden visited Carter and his wife, Rosalynn, who is now 95, at their home in Plains, Georgia, a few months after Biden took office in 2021. Biden was the first U.S. senator to endorse Carter's 1976 presidential bid, breaking from the Washington establishment that Carter, then a former one-time Georgia governor, shocked by winning the Democratic nomination. A Chicago man has been charged with fatally stabbing his ex-girlfriend on a CTA train platform early Saturday morning in the Loop, according to authorities. Alessandro Arellano is accused of first-degree murder in connection with the death of Samantha Maldonado. According to authorities, the two individuals were former co-workers who were in a relationship for 5 to 6 months before breaking up about a week prior to the stabbing. A bond proffer revealed Maldonado and Arellano met at Miller's Pub, 201 South Wabash at around 12:30 a.m. Saturday. At around 1:20 a.m., Maldonado left the bar, with Orlando following about 5 to 10 seconds behind her. Orlando followed her to the CTA train platform at Adams and Wabash as shown on CTA surveillance video. As Maldonado walked up the stairs of the CTA station, Orlando pulled out a folding knife, court documents revealed. She then hurried up the stairs, got to the platform and hid behind the CTA equipment box. As Orlando went to where she was hiding, Maldonado tried to enter a train that was arriving at the station. Orlando managed to pull her away from the train doors, according to authorities. A struggle then ensued, and Maldonado tried to get away from Orlando, at which point he approached her from behind, stabbing her multiple times in the chest and abdomen, according to the proffer. Orlando boarded a train and headed home following the stabbing, according to authorities. Maldonado was able to make her way down the stairs of the CTA platform and collapsed in the middle of the street. Several civilians and security from Miller's Pub immediately came to the victim's aid. When paramedics arrived on scene, Maldonado told them that Alessandro Orlando was the person who stabbed her and provided his date of birth. The 26-year-old was taken to an area hospital and later pronounced dead from her injuries. The start of a winter storm with heavy, wet snow caused a plane to slide off a taxiway and led to hundreds of school closings, cancelled flights, and thousands of power outages in parts of the Northeast on Tuesday. The storm's path included parts of New England, upstate New York, northeastern Pennsylvania, and northern New Jersey. Snow totals by the time it winds up Wednesday were expected to range from a few inches to a few feet, depending on the area. This is shaping up to be a unique winter storm for our small state in that there will be big differences in snowfall amounts depending on where you are located, said Connecticut Governor Ned Lamont, who ordered all executive branch state office buildings closed. Some towns may receive a significant snowfall total, while others may receive a fraction of that amount or maybe even just rain. The storm in the Northeast came as California faced warnings of more flooding, potentially damaging winds and difficult travel conditions on mountain highways as a new atmospheric river pushed into the swamped state early Tuesday. So far this winter, California has been battered by 10 previous atmospheric rivers, long plumes of moisture from the Pacific Ocean, as well as powerful storms fueled by Arctic air that produced blizzard conditions. A man is facing a number of felony charges after a 13-year-old girl reported missing in Dallas 2 weeks ago was rescued from a locked shed at the North Carolina home where he was staying. Richie Simmons, sheriff of Davidson County, North Carolina, said in a news conference Monday that his department was contacted by a special agent with the Texas FBI's Violent Crime Task Force late Friday afternoon about a missing girl from Dallas that was believed to be with an adult resident of Lexington identified as 34-year-old George Evan Santos Camacho. Officials in North Carolina said during a news conference Monday that about 10 minutes after receiving the tip from the FBI, they had eyes on the home where Camacho was staying in Lexington, about 60 miles northeast of Charlotte. Simmons said investigators learned the girl had been communicating with an adult person through an unspecified social media site and that the nature of those communications was consistent with grooming and enticement and that the girl was encouraged and convinced to leave her home. According to a missing poster shared online, the girl was last seen in Dallas on March 1. The Davidson County Sheriff's Department said video cameras near the girl's residence recorded a vehicle around that time that was registered to an address in Davidson County, North Carolina. Following her rescue Friday, the girl, who appeared to be uninjured, was taken to a medical center for evaluation before being reunited with her family in Dallas. Because the missing girl is a juvenile and believed to be a victim of a sex crime, to protect her identity, her name has been intentionally omitted from this story. Senate Republican leader Mitch McConnell was released from the hospital Monday after treatment for a concussion and will continue to recover in an inpatient rehabilitation facility, a spokesman said. McConnell's office said his doctors discovered over the weekend that he had also suffered a minor rib fracture after he tripped and fell at the Waldorf Astoria Hotel in Washington on Wednesday evening. Leader McConnell's concussion recovery is proceeding well and the leader was discharged from the hospital today, McConnell's spokesman David Popp said in a statement. At the advice of his physician, the next step will be a period of physical therapy at an inpatient rehabilitation facility before he returns home. The office did not give any additional detail on his condition or say how long McConnell will be out. Concussions can be serious injuries and take time for recovery, and even a single incident of concussion can limit a person's abilities as they recover. Former U.S. Representative Pat Schroeder, a pioneer for women's and family rights in Congress, has died. She was 82. Schroeder's former press secretary, Andrea Camp, said Schroeder suffered a stroke recently and died Monday night at a hospital in Celebration, Florida, the city where she had been residing in recent years. Schroeder took on the powerful elite with her rapier wit and antics for 24 years, shaking up stodgy government institutions by forcing them to acknowledge that women had a role in government. Her unorthodox methods cost her important committee posts, but Schroeder said she wasn't willing to join what she called the good old boys club just to score political points. Unafraid of embarrassing her congressional colleagues in public, she became an icon for the feminist movement. Schroeder was elected to Congress in Colorado in 1972 and became one of its most influential Democrats as she won easy re-election 11 times from her safe district in Denver. Despite her seniority, she was never appointed to head a committee. Now it's time for global updates. Two men died Monday after a pickup truck plowed into pedestrians beside a road in the eastern Quebec town of Umpqua, although a senior Canadian official rapidly ruled out a terrorism attack or a national security incident. A provincial police spokeswoman said 9 other people were injured, including 2 whose injuries are considered serious. Sergeant Helen St. Pierre said the 38-year-old driver, a local resident, turned himself into police and was arrested under suspicion of committing a fatal hit and run. A senior government official familiar with the matter said the incident was not terrorism or national security related. The official spoke on condition of anonymity as they were not authorized to speak publicly on the matter. Authorities had not mentioned any motive. St. Pierre said the 2 people killed were both men, one in his 60s and the other in his 70s. Among the injured, 2 suffered serious injuries and the other 7 were being evaluated, she said. St. Pierre said investigators and accident reconstruction experts were working to establish the circumstances of the crash. A Russian fighter jet on Tuesday struck the propeller of a U.S. surveillance drone over the Black Sea, causing American forces to bring down the unmanned aerial vehicle in international waters, the U.S. military said, an incident that highlighted soaring U.S.-Russian tensions over Moscow's war in Ukraine. White House National Security spokesman John Kirby said U.S. President Joe Biden was briefed on the incident by National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan. The U.S.-European Command said in a statement that 2 Russian Su-27 fighter jets conducted an unsafe and unprofessional intercept of a U.S. MQ-9 drone that was operating within international airspace over the Black Sea. It said one of the Russian fighters struck the propeller of the MQ-9, causing U.S. forces to have to bring the MQ-9 down in international waters. Prior to that, The Su-27s dumped fuel on and flew in front of the MQ-9 several times before the collision in a reckless, environmentally unsound, and unprofessional manner, the US-European Command said in a statement from Stuttgart, Germany. The devastating tropical cyclone Freddy, which has ripped through southern Africa in a rare second landfall, has killed at least 216 people in Malawi and Mozambique since Saturday night, with the death toll expected to rise. Heavy rains that triggered floods and mudslides have killed 199 people in Malawi, authorities said Tuesday. President Lazarus Chakwera declared a state of disaster in the country's southern region and the now ravaged commercial capital, Blantyre. Some 19,000 people in the south of the nation have been displaced, according to Malawi's Disaster Management Directorate. Power and communications are down in many affected areas, hindering aid operations, said Stephen Dujarric, the UN Secretary-General's spokesperson, at a press briefing Tuesday afternoon. The most affected regions remain inaccessible, so the full extent of the damage is so far unknown. Reports from Mozambique's Disaster Institute on Tuesday confirmed that 17 people have died in the country and 1,900 homes have been destroyed in the coastal Zambezia province. Tens of thousands of people are still holed up in storm shelters and accommodation centers. Freddy will continue to thump central Mozambique and southern Malawi with extreme rainfall before it exits back to the sea late Wednesday afternoon, the UN's Meteorological Center on the island of Reunion projected. Pakistani police scuffled with supporters of former Prime Minister Imran Khan on Tuesday as officers arrived outside his home to arrest him for failing to appear in court on graft charges, police and officials said. Police in the eastern city of Lahore planned to serve Khan with a warrant to appear in court later this week. They fired tear gas at the house as the 71-year-old opposition leader's supporters hurled rocks and bricks at the officers. About a dozen police and some 35 of Khan's supporters were reported injured. Tear gas shells and pieces of bricks littered the pavement as Khan's followers fought back with batons snatched from the officers. Khan, who was ousted in a no-confidence vote in Parliament last April, was ordered to appear before a judge in Islamabad on Friday to answer charges of illegally selling state gifts he had received during his term as premier and concealing his assets. Nobel Literature Laureate Kenzaburo Oe, whose darkly poetic novels were built from his childhood memories during Japan's post-war occupation and from being the parent of a disabled son, has died. He was 88. Oe, who was also an outspoken anti-nuclear and peace activist, died on March 3, his publisher Kodansha Limited said in a statement Monday. The publisher did not give further details about his death and said his funeral was held by his family. Oe in 1994 became the second Japanese author awarded the Nobel Prize in Literature. The Swedish Academy cited the author for his works of fiction, in which poetic force creates an imagined world where life and myth condense to form a disconcerting picture of the human predicament today. His most searing works were influenced by the birth of Oe's mentally disabled son in 1963. China will reopen its borders to tourists and resume issuing all visas Wednesday as it tries to revive tourism and its economy following a 3-year halt during the COVID-19 pandemic. China is one of the last major countries to reopen its borders to tourists. The announcement Tuesday came after it declared a decisive victory over COVID-19 in February. All types of visas will resume from Wednesday. Visa-free entry also will resume at destinations such as Hainan Island as well as for cruise ships entering Shanghai that had no visa requirement before COVID-19. Foreigners holding visas issued before March 28, 2020 that are still valid will be allowed to enter China. Visa-free entry will resume for foreigners entering Guangdong in southern China from Hong Kong and Macau. The notice didn't specify whether vaccination certificates or negative COVID-19 tests would be required, but Foreign Ministry spokesperson Wang Wenbin told reporters Tuesday that China had optimized measures for remote testing of people coming to China from relevant countries, allowing pre-boarding antigen testing instead of nucleic acid testing. Now it's time for business news. Today's New York stock close price is 14,764.37. The NYSE composite is decreased by 129.81 points or 0.87%. Tokyo stock close price is 27,222.04. The Nikkei 225 index is decreased by 610.92 points or 2.19%. Shanghai stock close price is 3,245.3123. The Shanghai Composite Index is decreased by 23.38 points or 0.72%. Hong Kong stock close price is 19,247.96. The Hang Seng Index is decreased by 448.01 points or 2.27%. Bombay stock close price is 57,900.19. The Sensex Index is decreased by 337.66 points or 0.58%. Let's have a look on today's sports stories. The expanded World Cup in North America got even more supersized on Tuesday. The governing body of soccer increased the size of the 2026 tournament for the second time, 6 years after the first, by approving a bigger group stage for the inaugural 48-team event. By retaining groups of 4 teams instead of moving to 3, FIFA has created a 104-game schedule that will last nearly 6 weeks in the United States, Canada and Mexico. The final is scheduled for July 19. The 16 host cities, 11 in the United States, 3 in Mexico and 2 in Canada, now have 24 extra games to stage on top of the 80 they already had for the inaugural 48-team tournament. Adding about 1.5 million more tickets will also further fuel FIFA's expected record revenue of at least 11 billion through 2026 from a tournament that will rely on using high-revenue NFL stadiums. FIFA said the decision followed a thorough review that considered sporting integrity, player welfare, team travel, commercial and sporting attractiveness, as well as team and fan experience. The US men's soccer team will play Mexico in an exhibition on April 19 at Glendale, Arizona. The match announced Tuesday is not on a FIFA fixture date, meaning many, if not all, Europe-based players will not be available, a group that includes most starters from last year's World Cup roster. The US, with its full player pool available, has CONCACAF Nations League matches at Grenada on March 24 and against El Salvador 3 days later at Orlando, Florida. Mexico is at Suriname on March 23 and home against Jamaica 3 days later. Let's have a look on today's weather forecast. That's all in today's news. Keep watching Millennium News 24 for latest update. Millennium TV USA and Millennium News 24 network is transmitted and available to be watched free for all at TVs such as Sony, Samsung, LG, Roku TV, Amazon TV and Apple TV. And also in all European countries and Australia, available with the Sky Network, Worldwide Jago TV, Radiant IPTV, Worldwide Jago BD Network and Horizon Satellite globally. Stay connected with us for all types of informative and entertainment program. Thank you.